17 commitments in the class of 2025, and we're still in February, Mike. This is remarkable work by the entire Notre Dame coaching staff and Chad Bowden on down the line. But Matty Augustine is the latest, an offensive lineman from Connecticut.
Yeah, really interesting prospect, Darren. Listed at 6'7", 265. He told me that he played his junior season at like 275, 280 on the gridiron, and then he actually like gained 10 pounds or so during his basketball season. He was like, man, I swear we run less in basketball than in football practices. So that's Notre Dame's third offensive line commits in this 2025 class from Greenwich, Connecticut, Brunswick School, joining Owen Streebig and Will Black. So usually, Darren, offensive linemen are like Notre Dame's first commits. Like those are the guys who commit right away because it's just like the lowest drama position, and those guys just tend to commit earlier. For whatever reason, Notre Dame, it took until December for Notre Dame to get their first offensive line pledge. Will Black committed to Notre Dame in December, and then you had Owens, and then the dominoes started falling. Owen Streebig announced, his or he made his silent commitment probably sometime in January, then announced it in early February, and then like the day before Streebig announced his commitment, Matty Augustine told Notre Dame, hey, I want to commit. And then, 13 days later, he announces his commitment to Notre Dame. So the Irish go from 0 offensive line commits to 3 in just, exactly 2 months, I believe, maybe a little less than 2 months. But so yeah, another really good one, Matty Augustine. Darren, you're talking about 3 6'7" offensive linemen, 6'7" plus. Will Black might be closer to 6'8". It's a really impressive group. I think Matty Augustine might be the most versatile of the group with his basketball background. He's a really good hoops player. I think that he could be someone that would slide inside potentially of this group. If you had to make me pick one, I might say Matty, but I mean, he told me that Notre Dame's plans to play him at tackle, which is the same case with Streebig and Will Black. So really good group for Notre Dame. And I always say it's a lot easier. When I always say this is what I've been told. It's easier to slide offensive tackles inside than, move a guard to the outside. So Notre Dame, you want to load up on tackles and move some guys inside. And I think, even Matty Augustine could do that. And at 6'7", that's possible. I mean, Josh Lugg, I think, was 6'7", 6'8", and he played on the interior of the Notre Dame offensive line. So it's not always about height. It's about some of the athletic traits and whatnot. If you can play on the inside, if you can bend low and do all those things. So it's another really good pickup. He's a 3-star right now. I wouldn't really be too worried about the rankings. On3 is actually updating their rankings next Monday, so I'm really fascinated to see where Matty Augustine ranks in the update, because I don't believe On3's done their last 2025 rankings update was early in the fall, I believe. So. I mean, it was a close battle between Notre Dame and Wisconsin. This is someone who Notre Dame really wanted for quite a while. Joe Rudolph offered him after seeing him in person at a camp in South Bend last June. So he got that offer. Notre Dame-Wisconsin battle. If that's a final 2, then that's probably a pretty darn good offensive lineman, Darren. So the Irish got this one done. Marcus Freeman was a huge part of this recruiting process. Matty told me that he really loved Wisconsin. The city of Madison is amazing. Like, he was in awe of that program and that, just town and everything about that university. But he told me that Marcus Freeman told him a story of back in, what would this been, December 2020 or January 2021. He had to choose between going to LSU as defensive coordinator. Of course, that was before Brian Kelly left. That was the season. That was what season that Freeman was defense coordinator, or go be the DC at in South Bend for the Fighting Irish. And he chose hard and picked Notre Dame for what it can really do for him. And Matty said that kind of stuck with him. And I say choose hard. That's kind of Freeman's mantra, right? Like, you come to Notre Dame, it may not have all the glitz and glamour, but what it can do for you after football, that really resonated with Matty Augustine. And he's close friends with a lot of Notre Dame commits. So all in all, Darren, I'll stop rambling, but I think it's a really good pickup for Notre Dame. I think he's a versatile offensive lineman, great athleticism, really good upside. He's 6'7", again, maybe 285 right now. He's going to be one of those 6'7", 310, 315 pounders in no time. He's definitely got pretty high upside.
First off, with all those 6'7" offensive linemen, this is not the place for 5'9" quarterbacks, to say the least. And you know what I love, Mike? And again, I've been here for 25 years, and I am not even a recruiting novice, but I just listen. And maybe this is recency bias, so bear with me. I just don't ever remember consistently recruits always talk about the head coach. Even a guy like Matty Augustine, who's an offensive lineman, he could have mentioned Rudolph and Denbrock, which he probably did in the basis of conversations. But all these guys seem to always have a thought or a story or something involving Marcus Freeman. And that's just not something I'm used to.
Yeah, I've told you this story before, back in, I think this player's in the 2021 class. He was committed to Notre Dame, walked by Brian Kelly. And, you ever walk by someone, Darren, I'm sure you do in the press box, where you're like, I know who that guy is, but I don't really know. I'm just going to give him that little nod and you move on. That's what Brian Kelly gave this recruit, just that little nod and move along. Like, I think I know you, but I don't really know for sure, so I'm just going to keep moving. That's a committed prospect to Notre Dame, and Brian Kelly didn't even give him the time of day. Like, the kid was visiting, and they didn't even, like, Brian Kelly didn't even talk to him. Think about that compared to Freeman dominating these recruitments. And one other thing before we move on to the Notre Dame's other commit, we're going to talk about that the Irish landed just a couple days ago. Freeman, he's so involved with all the recruits, and so is Chad Bowden and others in the recruiting office. So when someone like Chris O'Leary goes to the pros, these safeties who are committed to Notre Dame or considering Notre Dame, there's no drop-off. And that's not an indictment on O'Leary. It's all about, oh man, my position coach left, but I know DC Al Golden. I know Chad Bowden. I know Dre Brown. I know Marcus Freeman. These guys are all still here, and I trust them to do the right thing and go get the great coach to coach me. Now, it's Mike Mickens, who it looks like is going to be the safeties coach. So those guys are already familiar with Mickens, so that helps in that specific example. But that's probably, Darren, if you're going to ask me for my favorite thing about covering Marcus Freeman, that what they do, it's having so many coaches or staffers involved with the recruitment, so that if one person does leave, there's no big deal. As long as Freeman's there, and I'd probably even throw Bowden in that too. But really, as long as Freeman's there, dude, this operation's a well-oiled machine.
Last week, Kyle Kelly filled in for you. He told us about Elijah Burris, the first wide receiver commitment in the Notre Dame 25 class. He now has company as Shaun Terry picked the Fighting Irish this week.
Yeah, Darren, this kid is a lot of fun to watch. 5'10", 165 pounds, from Southern Ohio, Ironton, three-star prospect. But for folks watching this on YouTube, you're going to watch his film, and it is a lot of fun to watch. I mean, the first play, he breaks several tackles and jukes out a lot of guys. So I don't know about the competition level that he's playing, but this is, for me, you take this young man all day long. Offers from Michigan, USC, Penn State, I believe, some big-time programs after him, and Notre Dame was the one that he really wanted. So he visited campus January 20th for that junior day, got the offer that day, and it was really commit watch from that point. And look, Notre Dame is off to such a hot start in the class. You got to think, like, if you're a Notre Dame coach, like, man, how many guys can we take? Because they're in such a good position with so many players. So I think the staff kind of figured out what it wanted to do with its 2025 board, and then said, yeah, Terry, let's do this thing. And I think he was ready to commit. So he committed on Sunday. This was not one where you had a ton of heads up, right? Matt Augustine announced, a week ago, hey, I'm committing on February 20th. This was not one of those. This was a kind of one of those out of the blue ones, even for us. Like, we only learned about it at Blue and Gold Sunday morning, a couple hours before he announced his commitment, because it was just like, boom, 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 let's get this thing done. A lot of times, again, you'll call Freeman and commit, and then you announce like a month later or a couple weeks later. Terry didn't want to waste any time. He got that thing announced right away. So again, someone who wanted to be at Notre Dame bad. There wasn't a ton of Notre Dame needing to recruit this kid. He knew where he wanted to be, and that was Notre Dame. Darren, I'm excited to hear what you think about him as you're watching this tape, because just get the ball in his hand. He's fast. He is fun to watch. It's not a highly ranked receiver class right now in Shaun Terry and Elijah Burris, but these are two of my favorite receivers that Notre Dame's landed in recent years, and I love all of the guys they've landed pretty much. And Mike Brown offers. Both of these guys offered by Mike Brown, not Chancey Stuckey.
I love his acceleration, the wiggle he has. I mean, this is a guy, wouldn't it be fair to say, Mike, he could help you in the return game very, very quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, what he's doing at the high school level, he's not going to be able to do this at Notre Dame. I mean, some of this stuff is ridiculous. You're not going to do this at that level. But if you can even do a little bit of this at Notre Dame, just like you get the ball in his hands and he just outruns everyone and has that wiggle, we'll take that and be happy. And it's shaping up to be a big time receiver class for Notre Dame. 2 commits already. Jerome Bettis, the son of Jerome Bettis, still looking good for Notre Dame there. And then Derek Meadows, and then a young man named Raiden Vines Bright from Arizona, and currently plays at Bradenton IMG Academy. Those are 2 to keep an eye on there. So we could be looking at, Darren, potentially a 5-man receiver class if Notre Dame just gets the guys they want. Could be a really good one for Mike Brown.
Man, this guy's a fun watch. I could watch this for another 20 minutes. Very impressive.